Hey guys, it's Gaz. Welcome to the Warframe video. So today we have a very nice weapon to show you. It's called the Cyanex. It's a pistol. It is pretty much all status based, and it has some really good synergy with condition overload. So let's quickly go over the stats and how you obtain this thing. So the stats of this thing, it's pretty much not crit in any way. 8% crit is really low. 1.4 critical multiplier is also very low. So even if you were to get a critical riven for this thing, guys, I would not advise it. I'd say even if you get a really good crit riven, just roll it into something else. I'd say multi-shot, fire rate, magazine size. Those are all be really good for this thing, but not crit stats. So terrible crit, but we have some good stuff here. We have 32% status, and it has innate gas on the primary fire. What it does not show you in this little display right here is a secondary fire. There's also a secondary fire for this thing, which has impact, puncture, and slash. So this thing could potentially get more procs than the Zakti, or more procs than the Pox, which are some of the best condition overload weapons that are currently in the game. But this thing is potentially better if you play it right. So here's how you obtain it. You have to go to the energy lab in your dojo. Make sure you have the prerequisite research, and it's going to take Forma, Hexanon, 5 field drawn. It's a pretty high level thing to research, but it's not too bad in my personal opinion. We have a max capacity clan with almost 1,000 people, so we have the most resources needed to build these things. But it wasn't too. We had it going within an hour of the update starting. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Let's quickly display how the primary and the secondary fire works. So here it is with no mods. So I have the primary fire. See, it bounces off the wall. The dart for the primary fire, it will bounce once, either off of a surface or off of an enemy, and it will seek out another enemy afterwards. So, yeah, as you see, I shot the gunner right there. It bounced to the gunner next to her. She actually got staggered from the 1 damage. I'm not going to question it. And then the secondary fire, it's basically a Pandero. So it unloads your entire magazine all at once. And like I said, the secondary fire does have impact, puncture, and slash, which is going to make it so you can have tons of procs for condition overload. Okay, so that's the basic gist of it. Primary fire is full auto with homing. Secondary fire is just like Pandero with no homing. So here it is with multi-shot. Multi-shot makes it actually fire a kind of wild amount of bullets sometimes, which make it pretty imprecise at range. But the thing is, it has homing, so even if you're not really super precise, it's gonna home in on them anyway. So that's a big thing about this gun, guys. You can just use it and not really aim. I don't really aim when I use this thing, to be honest. There's specific situations I will use to aim, mostly with the secondary fire, just to get those procs on something. But pretty much for the primary, you can just spam it. This is a gun you're gonna be unloading the magazine in and then reloading a lot. So the fact that it has a 2.2 reload time is actually pretty bad, because you're gonna be reloading it constantly. But we actually have a special build today that's built around not caring about the reload at all. Which I'm not going to recommend to everybody, but I've been having fun with it personally. We have some serious builds as well that we can go over. But let's quickly just show the builds. So, it's a pistol, obviously. The build I'm currently using is a spamming build, so it's basically built for spamming the shots for this thing. So we're using Pistol Pestilence and Frostbite to give us viral, so it normally has gas damage. We added viral on there, so they'll have the enemy HP, and then the gas cloud will do damage over time. And impact procs will stagger it. That's not really what we're focusing on. And then as you see, on the secondary fire as well, we actually added the viral from our elementals as well. But there is no gas on the secondary fire. Notice that. So if we want to get those gas procs for condition overload, we need to use the primary fire first, and then we switch to the secondary fire to get the slash and the puncture procs. Okay, so that's the two viral, we're adding viral onto it. We're also using prime slip magazine. If you were not using the specific build, you would probably want to put Prime Quick Draw there instead to make the reload time 1.2 seconds. But for this specific build, we're using maximum magazine size just to spam shots. We're also using Anemic Agility, which is basically the corrupted version of fire rate for pistols. So 90% fire rate, minus 15% damage. Not a really big deal, that minus 15% damage. It lets us spam shots really fast, so that's really nice. Using both of the multi-shot mods, they're not rivens. We do not have a riven for this thing. I'm actually currently going to be looking for one because I do enjoy this thing. Hornet Strike, this goes on pretty much every weapon, unless it's a really focused build. We actually have a build on here with no Hornet Strikes. So, and then the last mod is Synth Charge. So we're running the entire Synth mod set here, guys. So what the Synth mod set does is holstering primary and secondary weapons reloads 20% of the magazine per second. So basically, once we have unloaded some ammo from our magazine, from either our primary or our secondary, once we switch to another weapon, it will start automatically reloading those that weapon that we don't have equipped while we're using other weapons. So it's pretty nice for this thing. The 200% bonus damage on the final shot is pretty much useless here. You can kind of notice it at lower levels, but it's really not the focus of this at all. We're really focusing on this 20% of our magazine reloaded per second, because you can just have constant bullets. We're actually using the Strun Wraith. I have a negative damage, or a negative reload ribbon on this thing, so automatically reloading this thing is really nice. We're also using Modus setup, but this is just for testing right now. I'm using like a crit build with 100% status. It's been pretty good, but you need to double jump constantly with this, which I'm not sure if I like as much. Okay, then we're also using the synth reflex mod on our Warframe just to get more of the set bonus, and we're using 2 of the synth mods on our Sentinel as well. So yeah, 20% of the magazine reloaded per second. Let's just show that really quickly. So I'm going to unload a bunch of the magazine from this Strun Wraith, get down to 1 bullet, and I'm going to use my Cyanex, spam all the shots from the Cyanex, switch to the Strun Wraith. It should have been reloaded. I think there's a bug actually in the Simulacrum when you actually go to the mod screen. So we're actually going to leave the Simulacrum and re-enter it, guys, because there's a bug that the mods don't work after you go into your arsenal there. I actually was trying to avoid that, but we did go into the arsenal. Okay, because I knew about that bug. But yeah, basically, it's just so we can have constant fire. So here, we're going to use all the shots here. Now we're going to switch to our shotgun, give it a couple seconds, fire some shots off, switch to our Cyanex. It's basically fully reloaded now. We can switch, fire. It already has like 8 bullets in the magazine for the Cyanex. It's like endless bullets, guys. So that's been really fun. I've been really enjoying this. Although it's not really the most practical, I do think that auto-reloading the Cyanex to give you those status condition overload procs is really nice. Let's quickly show how a bunch of procs will work on a enemy. So here we go. Proc Crazy is the name of this clip. So I'm using the secondary build that we have, which we'll be showing in a second. We're using Prime Quick Draw and Prime Magazine. And then we're also using, I think it's Viral and Electric, and then Gas. So we're going to just, this is like the optimal strat right here, guys. You put a couple shots into the enemy with the primary fire, then you use the secondary fire. You see all those procs on her, she's going to be instantly dead to our condition overload melee. So that's really fun. Let's quickly show it on a demo list. This demo list is not paused. I don't think I die in this clip. Okay, so yeah, the demo list, it is immune to some stuff in mission that's probably not going to be really, it's not going to be as good in mission, guys, but I would recommend this against the demo list. I think it's overall pretty decent. And if you're not going to be using this against a demo list, I mean, you'd probably be using like the Zakti or the Pox. But we're going to go over actually why the Pox and the Zakti might not be as good as this thing very soon. Okay, so that was 2 of the builds that we're showing. The third build is just a corrosive build. We will go over that, but yeah, let's just quickly go over why you would actually want to use this thing over the Pox and the Zakti, which are your other really big condition overload options. Okay, so more potential procs when using the Cyanex with the secondary fire included. So like we said, you get the gas, you get whatever you've modded for on the primary and on the impact, and you switch to the secondary. Puncture and Slash are added into the mix as well, so that can be potentially extremely powerful when using condition overload. More viable as a low DPS weapon, or low-level DPS weapon. So as I said, this is not really like a DPS weapon meant for high levels. You could probably make it work, but it's really not worth it in my opinion compared to like using a normal weapon. But yeah, like this thing, you can spam shots. It's like really lazy at low levels. If you're using something like a Nova debuff or like a Rhino Roar or something, you'll be one-shotting like level 50 enemies pretty easily. Okay, so that's pretty nice. The Zakti and the Pox can kind of do that, but they are a lot slower in my opinion. So I think that the Cyanex gets the edge over there in the low-level DPS department, and then no aiming really required. That's not really a reason to use it, but if you just want to chill, maybe that is a reason for you to use it. And then we're going to go over why the Pox and the Zakti are potentially better than the Cyanex. So the Zakti can set up for melee finishers and stealth damage. Additionally, the Zakti does have gas innate to it as well, but it does not have slash. So that's part. You'll be losing some procs there, but the Zakti is tested and true that it is good for condition overload. It's also good for the stealth damage. So that's definitely still a really good option, and the Cyanex is not making that thing any worse. It has more procs potentially. And Pox has innate toxin, allowing for a purely corrosive or viral build. So the Pox, basically, is one of the... It probably is the best status applier in the game. Let's just quickly show the Pox. So, it has base toxin. It has really good status chance, 35% at base, guys. and it's not a crit weapon at all. It has actually less critical chance, funny enough. It has 1% on the pox. But yeah, that base toxin, some of the builds you can make for the pox, guys. Pure corrosive, corrosive cold, some really good, like, this is amazing for stripping armor. This isn't even 100% status. This removes armor like almost instantly. So this is one of the reasons I potentially think the pox is better than this thing. But let's just keep going over it. So yeah, pox is a toxin allowing for full corrosive or full viral builds, very focused. That's the only thing you'll be proccing in those builds, which can be nice, but not as good for condition overload, of course. Both can use fulmination, increasing the radius of the status cloud. So basically, you'd put the fulmination mod on your pox or your Zakti, and it would make the explosion of that status area larger. And you cannot equip fulmination on the Cyanex, which is not really a big deal, so like whatever. And then cheaper ribbons potentially, because the Cyanex is new and hyped up, so it has expensive ribbons right now. The lowest I've seen is like 500 plat for like a complete garbage one, with like crit stats, which is obviously terrible for this thing. So yeah, I think that the pox ribbons are really cheap nowadays. But yeah, I do think that you can get good use out of this. Let's quickly just show it against a group of enemies. So this is a viral gas build, I believe, right now. So this is how like the DPS is looking. See, like pretty awful DPS. It's a terrible damage type against these guys, but we're basically just using it for the status. So now we have status on these guys. We use our Grand Prime, and they're toast. These guys didn't really have statuses on them, so they're kind of... The Grand Prime is kind of effed up, so they're just toast anyway. But it gives us even more damage, which is nice. Load them up with statuses. We're going to switch weapons so it auto-reloads for us. We went to the arsenal, so the mod broke. Okay. Yeah, keep that in mind, guys. If you're testing stuff with the Simulacrum, and you're using the synth mod set, they break when you go to the arsenal, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I could definitely recommend this to you guys. Let's just show it against some Corpus as well, because we do have a damage over time build, but I actually don't have that equipped right now. Let's do some text. So you would definitely do a different build if you were doing a damage over time build. Let's actually put the damage over time build on screen right now. Let's see, it's this one. This is the damage over time build I created against the Corpus. We are not currently using this. But, yeah, you could actually mess with this a little bit more and actually make it higher weighted into gas. This is actually viral and gas, and you're going to want gas to be higher proc chance. But this is a step in the right direction. How about that? You probably want to switch a few things around. But yeah, let's just quickly show this build against these Corpus dudes. And then I think we're going to end the video, guys. This is not a very complicated weapon, but I do think it is worth using, and I've been having fun with it. So see, like, this is the damage over time you're getting. That's an entire magazine. So yeah, not exactly impressive, but we don't have Prime Pay in the Corpus on here right now. If we had Prime Pay in the Corpus, it would definitely be better. So, I don't know. I would never recommend this as a DPS weapon at this high of level. Like around level 50, that's where you're going to be seeing some good results. We can actually knock them down to level 50 quickly and just see how that goes. Alright, so they're level 165 right now because that's how we roll around here. Alright, so no stealth multipliers or anything like that from the paused AI for this. That's more like it. Gas Cloud's like taking them out pretty quickly. Yeah, this is where I find the fun in this weapon. It's just like at low levels, just spamming the shots. If you're like going to like ESO or something, this will be fine for ESO. It shouldn't be your main DPS weapon for ESO, but it can definitely be something you're just spamming at enemies and having some fun. That's basically what I use it for. But I'm going to start using it for condition overload and stuff pretty soon as well. So, yeah, this thing did originally have self-damage at when it was first released, guys. So I did wait a couple days because the self-damage addition on this thing was really weird. I'm like, why does this thing have self-damage? But they did actually remove the self-damage from this weapon. So now you can actually just fire it all over the place in peace. I also think this thing looks really similar to the Needler from Halo, which is one of the reasons I really like it. The way it just like homes in on enemies, and I made the needles that it fires pink, so it just gives me Needler vibes, and I really do love that. So yeah, I can definitely recommend it to you guys. This is a 4-forma build. I don't have a ribbon. You don't really even need a ribbon for this thing, but like I'll probably get multi-shot on one just for fun. So yeah, thanks for checking out the video as always, guys. There will be a see, I'm waiting right now because I actually noticed this about Warframe videos the other day. I'm like, oh, I did all that work on those those disruption videos. Then they just like randomly decide to take the armor away from that armored bug unit, and it's like the whole purpose of those videos is like trying to show you a strategy to work around the armored bug unit and all this stuff. And they just completely changed it out of the blue. So I'm actually going to be waiting a couple days for some of this stuff now, guys. Because if they just completely change a huge element of how these weapons work, like removing the self-damage from this thing, it's going to make my videos a little bit irrelevant. So I might end up waiting a couple days on some of these things. Like, for example, the gaze. As someone pointed out in one of my previous videos, the gaze kit gun, its chaining thing, it's supposed to like be kind of cool because it chains and stuff. But it only has like... the chain damage is 1% of the entire base damage, guys, so that honestly feels like a bug. So if I make a video on the gaze right now and say, oh, well, the chaining does 1% damage, and they change it like the next day to be like, it's chaining properly now, it's like chaining full damage or whatever, that would just be me like wasting my time making a video. So that's why I waited on this one. That's why we're waiting on a couple other things. So yeah, like even Wisp got some changes yesterday, right after I put the video on her. Her laser's a lot better now. Her laser does like almost double the damage it did originally. So yeah, just like things with Warframe videos. That's how this game works, though. It's ever changing. If you looked at some videos from like last year, they're probably completely different nowadays. A lot of things. So just my 2 cents and ramblings there. Get this thing, guys. It's really good for condition overload, and it's really fun at low levels. So yeah, peace out. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time, guys. Later.